I'm sure you think that I can just go back, right? Pretend and move away, start again. I know what people say, but I don't look gay. That I could hide it. But I'm done. I'm done pretending. I'm done with being scared. You know, the thing that you don't get, it wasn't like my dream to come here. I'm sorry, but it wasn't. It's not how I wanted it, to leave my home, my sister, my mother. But now, I can't go back.
People used to use this phrase that you blossom, and I feel like that. Back in my country, I was assaulted by the police. They beat me up and they just left me lying on the street because they thought I was too gay. And was not even the half of gay I am right now. uh, but I think the most remarkable stuff that I could say is like here in England, I've been allowed to be myself.
They are basically at risk of serious harm in their country of origin because they are lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, queer, or intersex.
They may have been exposed as LGBT in their home country, and they have been persecuted as a result. They're at risk of violence. They may already have suffered violence or state-sponsored torture. They find an opportunity to flee from the country and they arrive here seeking asylum.
In some of these places, being LGBTQ+ is legally punished with imprisonment or even death.
I'm from Algeria and then I grew up in Kuwait, which are two territories that are just as bad as each other in terms of queer rights and kind of progress. So I think it's also, it's about escaping that repression, but also it's just seeking a space where you can feel safe.
Some countries, you have to convince the Home Office that you are of a sexuality which would cause you to be persecuted or subject to risk of serious violence if you went back to your home country.
How do they prove gay? How do they prove something that, they spend their lives trying to hide?
What you have to do, what you're aiming to do at your first main asylum interview is to respond to questions about yourself, your sexual history, your self-understanding of your sexual identity, and why life in your home country either was too dangerous and you fled, or would be too dangerous if you went back.
And the success rate for asylum claims based on sexual orientation or gender identity is actually lower than the success rate for asylum claims overall. And one of the key reasons for that is because the Home Office sets the bar too high in LGBTQI asylum claims. They can also have very stereotypical ideas of what LGBTQI people should be like.
The interviewers in this process, they quite use a lot the stereotypes. What is like the queer stereotypes, But if these people were not allowed to be themselves and they were not allowed to be queer in their countries, how are they going to prove anything?
The UK is currently the only country in Europe where people are detained indefinitely in immigration detention centres.
Because it's been 3 years of waiting. It's a long time. You can say that so easily, but it's a long wait. And because we are not allowed to work or something like that, I spend my free time trying to improve this society.
I think the biggest challenges are dealing with authority when they are discussing something so very personal as their internal sexual identity. And to feel that they're able to do this in front of somebody that they've never spoken to about it before, especially if they're also having to work through an interpreter, and basically to lay out for somebody something so very personal.
Take your humanity away from you. It's a process that breaks you as a human. And it's sad because I came from a country when I was not treated as a human. People thought I was sick. People thought I was sinner. People thought I was wrong. And came here being part of the process under all the stuff that I've been through. It's just horrible how sometimes you are like broken inside and you're telling stuff that makes you feel vulnerable.
One of the other key issues is the fact that LGBTQI people seeking asylum face multiple layers of discrimination and are actually very marginalized in society. And as well as facing poverty and racism and xenophobia in the UK, they're often cut off from communities from their countries of origin and rejected by members of their families because of homophobia, transphobia, and biphobia. And among all asylum seekers, LGBTQI people are actually at highest risk of poverty and destitution. So isolation is a big problem.
As soon as I arrived in the UK, I just kind of discovered a whole new strand of repression, which is racial oppression. Because I grew up, I was in a minority where I grew up.
The other key issue is immigration detention, because it puts LGBTQI people at risk of harassment and physical and sometimes even verbal abuse in detention centres, and preparing an asylum claim while you're locked up in a detention centre makes it very difficult for people to gather the evidence that is needed. We're a charity supporting LGBTQI people through the asylum and immigration system in the UK. We have our legal service. We provide free and confidential legal advice on the asylum system, including how to apply for asylum, how to prepare for interviews with the Home Office, and how to prepare witness statements and evidence. We help people who are vulnerable or have more complicated cases with finding legal aid lawyers who can help them. We also have a support service, so we provide practical and emotional support to LGBTQI people who are going through the asylum process. We help people with things like finding safe housing or accessing healthcare, and we help them with working with them on their self-esteem and linking them into the community.
The First Wednesday group meets once a month as a group. Our role as a voluntary group is to share experiences, to refer people to supportive agencies, to direct them towards online resources that might help them with the information on their case.
So since I came here to Liverpool, I started to be involved with Many Hands, One Heart, which is the local asylum seekers and refugees LGBT supportive network. And fortunately, that opens me so many doors, and because I've been working so hard with Many Hands, One Heart, I met some other charities, and I've been invited even across the country to speak about asylum seekers, refugees. I went to London, Wigan, Manchester.
And I just want to mention two organizations that Journeys Festival International has been working with in the last years, and they're based in Manchester, and they're great. And one is LGIG, which is Lesbian Immigration Support Group, and the other one is Rainbow Noir. First of all, people need to educate themselves and create their own opinion about these subjects. It's very easy to just believe what the media say.
I think the main misconception I'd like to challenge about all asylum seekers in general is that they're economic migrants and that they're not actually fleeing persecution. How that translates to LGBTQI people seeking asylum is that people are lying about their sexual orientation or gender identity. I think we're seeing a lot of this narrative at the moment. I think it's very common at the moment, and I think it's a really dangerous narrative.
And of course, if people can donate to these organizations who support LGBTQ plus refugee and asylum seeking communities, that's great. And then if, people don't have the means to donate, why don't you volunteer or, give some of your free time?
I think the best thing someone can do is go close to a LGBT charity and say, I want to support LGBT asylum seekers, because there's so many stuff we need. There's so many stuff that we are looking for.
I would urge everyone to, especially the LGBTQI community, to support charities that are trying to improve the immigration and asylum system for LGBTQI people.
Really, really pushing people to just listen. I think, and by listening, I mean actually listening. I think that's a really important action that people can just take. And it's a very easy one as well. If we just listen and not assume.
What was the question? How do I identify? Well, I keep telling you, I like women. I don't really know how else I can prove it.
I work in the production team of Journeys Festival International, which is produced by Albert. And I also work on my own projects on the side as a curator and producer that mainly focus on exploring migration and identity.
I am a North African queer artist based between Manchester and London. My role with Journeys Festival was an artist, I suppose. Where I worked on queer journeys projects.
Journeys Festival International is a platform that supports artists exploring the refugee experience and global cultures. And we do this through multidisciplinary art.
Essentially, Queer Journeys is a series of zine-making workshops that aimed to create a space that's safe and inclusive for queer identifying migrants who are currently based in the UK. The participants were invited to narrate their journeys coming to the UK.
I also think it's very important that we share these stories because these can inspire other people in the same situation. So it's like kind of communicating that they're not alone and that they deserve a better life, basically.